It's late one night and you can't sleep. You toss and turn but can't seem to doze off. So you pull out your computer and head to some of your frequented online forums. You're on your favorite subreddit, r/Infographics show, when suddenly a pop-up blocks your screen. The box is all black with red lettering. It reads, "Do you like the Red Room?" The Red Room, you think? What's that? You shrug and go to close the pop-up. As soon as you click on the creepy message, another window appears. A list of people's names who have accessed a Red Room before begins scrolling across your screen. The list ends. An ominous message is left for you to read. It says everyone who has accessed the Red Room is now dead. Will you be next? You slam your laptop shut and sit in the darkness. You're breathing heavily as sweat pours down your face. Well, that was creepy, you think? Your curiosity gets the better of you, and you begin doing research on what Red Rooms are. One of the first things you find after a quick search is an account from a blogger who knows about Red Rooms. The blogger explains he knows a friend of a friend who once paid to view a Red Room on the dark web using cryptocurrency. The Red Room user went deep into the dark web using the anonymous browser called Tor. It was the only way to watch the real Red Rooms because of the insane stuff that happens in them. The user logged in and waited. The live stream video was of a room covered in translucent tarps. In the middle of the room was a chair. In the top right-hand corner of the screen was a countdown. The user had 3 minutes to wait before the show would begin. When the countdown got to 0, one of the tarps was pulled back. A tied-up man was escorted in by a hooded figure. The captive was secured in the chair, and the hooded figure left the room. He then came back with a pushcart piled high with tools and instruments of torture. The man tied to the chair began to scream and plead for mercy, but there was none to be had in the Red Room. The user was able to vote for different ways to torture the man. The executioner would read the messages and do it, but there was a catch. The user said that in order to suggest a torture, people watching the stream had to pay using untraceable cryptocurrency. The person with the highest payment got their torture of choice carried out. The user explained that this went on for around 20 minutes until someone made a monstrous donation to have the captive killed. The execution was carried out live on the Red Room video for all to see. You are a bit skeptical that something as horrible as torture and murder could be found on the internet. Also, this description, like every account of Red Rooms that you find, all happen to be second, third, or fourth-hand accounts. It seems like Red Rooms are tied to the dark web, yet when you do a quick Google search for Red Rooms, a bunch of sites come up. Yeah, they're all scams or old sites that no longer work, but they were relatively easy to find. This makes you think that people made up Red Rooms to scam others and it evolved into an urban legend. But the weird pop-up from earlier in the night still haunts you. You need to learn more. You decide to uncover more about what the dark web is and how it's tied to Red Rooms. After some research, you find that the dark web is a relatively small collection of websites that are not indexed by search engines such as Google or Yahoo. In fact, you discover that there are only about 2,000 unindexed sites that make up the dark web. When you compare this to the regular internet, which contains well over 1 billion sites, you're surprised at how small of a niche the dark web actually makes up of total virtual content. Supposedly, the only way to access these sites is to use open-source anonymity tools to uncover the hidden IP addresses. Browsers like Tor make it incredibly difficult to determine what is on the dark web and who is there unless you know what you're looking for. The dark web is based around anonymity, so it appeals to bad people doing bad things. You scour the internet for more information about Red Rooms. It's clear they are video streams of people doing terrible things like torture and murder. But do they really exist? Can you actually find one that's streaming live? From everything you've read, it seems unlikely. Most videos that claim to be Red Rooms are obviously just scams trying to steal people's money. What a time to be alive, you say sarcastically. As you go deeper and deeper into your research, you find an interesting rumor. It's claimed that the term Red Room has been around for decades. The name may have its origins in the movie The Shining, where red rum is written out in lipstick on a door. Later, the movie reveals that what is really being written is murder backwards. Another hypothesis of where Red Rooms got their name is from the 1983 horror film Videodrome. In this movie, torture is shown on live TV in a room painted red. Both ideas for the name of Red Room seems plausible. What doesn't seem plausible is that they actually exist on the internet. People have been known to do terrible things on the internet, especially when their identity is a secret. You don't have to go to the dark web to find websites geared toward racism, hate, and cybercrime. All of that can be found right on the regular internet. As you dive deeper into your research on the twisted world of the dark web, you come across a site that's claiming to be currently live streaming a Red Room. You're hesitant, but you need to know if it's real. So you click the link. It takes you to a video in progress. You think it's odd that a Red Room video would be easily accessible on the regular internet, but like so many others, your curiosity gets the better of you. The video in progress shows a woman being tortured by a man. The torturer is using different tools to inflict pain. Blood sprays everywhere. The man disappears behind a curtain. This can't be real, you think? He comes back into view as the shrieks of the hysteric captive fill the room. In his hand is a bone saw. A look of terror crosses the female's face. She struggles against the ropes, holding her onto the top of a wooden table. The man holds up the saw and brings it down onto one of the female's squirming legs. He puts his back to the camera and begins sawing. He's blocking the actual leg, but you can hear the screams and see the spraying blood covering the tarps that line the room. You're horrified. But what is even more scary than the Red Room are the comments of the anonymous watchers. They seem to be enjoying the torture. They're making suggestions on what to do next. You can't stand it anymore. You pull yourself out of the shock and grab your cell phone. You're about to call the police when the screaming stops. The man turns toward the camera and smiles. The female sits up, unties the ropes, and hops off the table. They take a bow. It was all just a show. No real torture happened, but it was still really messed up. Now, you're convinced that Red Rooms are either scams or gruesome staged videos where no one is actually tortured or killed. But then you stumble across claims that have been circulating the dark web forums. The rumors say Islamic State terrorists have been captured and will be tortured in a Red Room. The live stream is set to begin in just a few minutes. This seems like a twisted form of justice, but could it be real? Deep in the dark web, the site where the Islamic State fighters are to be tortured and killed goes live. A countdown starts. More and more people join the Red Room live stream. There's a lot of hype around this video. It seems legit. But right before the Red Room is about to begin, the site is taken offline. Hours later, the site comes back with a page that thanks everyone for watching and a 21-minute video of a guy being force-fed bacon. It seems like it was all a hoax. Yet again, the Red Room was a fake. You uncover no real evidence that Red Rooms currently exist or have ever existed. At this point, you're convinced that Red Rooms are all just an urban legend. As you look back at all of the research you did over the past few hours, you find holes in the Red Room myths. For example, the Tor software may allow people to remain anonymous on the dark web, but due to restrictions in what can be run, it's virtually impossible to stream any videos. The buffer rate would just be too slow to be viable. Also, the fact that there's virtually no first-hand evidence of a Red Room viewing is a big red flag. All accounts are from people who heard rumors from a friend, or an account that was found on forums that can't be verified. It would seem the Red Room urban legend has captivated the minds of people who search for crazy stuff on the dark web, but no real evidence for their existence has been uncovered. Maybe it's because people are too ashamed of what they did or saw. But people are not too ashamed to cyberbully or spread hate on the internet, so watching a Red Room video does not seem to be something people would be afraid to admit they've done. Even on the dark web, people can be found, given enough time and resources. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies have arrested people who engage in child pornography on the dark web. If Red Rooms existed, there's no reason to assume that people committing torture and murder would not eventually be apprehended. This is just more evidence that the Red Rooms do not actually exist. There are clearly terrible people doing terrible things on the dark web and the regular internet, but when laws are broken, they tend to be brought to justice one way or another. There have also been reports that hackers who use their abilities for good have analyzed a number of different dark web sites such as Red Rooms. They found these sites not to be genuine. One hacker named Cthulhu analyzed a number of dark web sites and found they were set up with no real concern for security. If terrible things are happening in Red Rooms, which could land the creator in jail, you would think security should be their #1 priority, but this does not seem to be the case, which means that the Red Room sites are most likely scams or fakes. You close your laptop and lay back in bed. You're relieved that the horrors of Red Rooms have been shown to be fake, but deep down inside, you know that people are capable of some crazy things. Maybe if you went deeper and deeper into the black hole of the dark web, you would find a real Red Room. It's a scary thought, but the internet can be a scary place. You lay awake looking at the ceiling. So much for trying to go back to sleep, you think. If you've seen our shows on the dark web, you'll know some of the things you can find there. We've talked before about illegal activities happening there, but there's much more to this place. You might find whistleblowers in the dark web, perhaps fearful of their identity being uncovered. Human rights journalists might also publish here, with an understanding that their work can't be traced back to them. Critics of oppressive governments might air their concerns there, while others just want absolute privacy when talking to people about their health. Welcome to this episode of the Infographics Show, how to access the dark web. First, let's give you a 101 on the dark web. Sources differ on how much of the internet can be seen using a standard browser. In the story, NPR told us that 96% of the internet is not available through normal browsers. Call it the iceberg theory, which means the internet we see is just the tip. Other resources tell us it's more like 90%, which is still huge. So what exactly are we not seeing? First of all, we should understand the difference between the deep web and darknet sites. The deep web might not be quite as degenerate as the dark web. The deep web is simply part of the web that can't be accessed through conventional browsers. One expert tells us despite many representations of a nefarious underground operating out of sight, the deep web is mostly benign private databases and web resources not meant to be accessed by the general public. Lots of data online isn't available to our prying eyes. Companies or banks have private databases, or some websites might not want to be indexed. They want to remain unsearchable. It's not really that surprising that most of the information flowing around the internet is protected. But then we have the dark web, and that's a totally different thing. This is a place where one wants absolute anonymity. Not to say people don't get found, they do. As we said, you might find political dissidents working there. In some countries, you can still lose your freedom or life for criticizing a leader or ruler. How does it work? How do people get this anonymity they require? Well, the darknet both incorporates encryption and also uses special privacy browsers. The best known is Tor, which is sometimes called the Onion Router. It's a free software that directs traffic through a massive network consisting of thousands of relays. These servers are run by volunteers. Here's an explanation by the Tor project. Tor's users employ this network by connecting through a series of virtual tunnels rather than making a direct connection, thus allowing both organizations and individuals to share information over public networks without compromising their privacy. We're told that the Tor network was created by the US Navy and is still partly funded by the US government. People can publish websites that can't be tracked. Tor tells us that while many people might think chat rooms are just full of rather strange people talking about eating each other or making a poodle burger, many people go to hidden chat rooms to discuss privately how they survived abuse, or perhaps talk about an illness they have that they're afraid could be found out in chat rooms outside of private browsing. This is a good thing, of course, because why shouldn't people at times have a bit of privacy? You might remember probably the most infamous site, the Silk Road, a marketplace where you could buy many things that you won't be seeing sold in the local shopping mall. But some of these items were just regular things. More recently, Alphabay and Hansa were also closed, but these sites were run as hidden services or onion services on the Tor network. But this show isn't about what we find on the dark web. It's more of a how-to show to tell you how to access the dark web. It actually isn't hard at all. So first, get yourself a virtual private network or VPN if you're intending to get on the dark web. This is easy. Just Google VPNs. Even our sponsor Dashlane has a VPN. Some are free, some of them cost a small amount of money. You don't need a VPN, but if you want to get extra secure, get one. Even if Tor was compromised and you were visiting the darknet sites because you had a VPN, it's very unlikely you could be traced. Okay, so you have your VPN and you're ready to access the Tor browser. To do this, just go to Tor and download it. Couldn't be easier. Only download from the Tor site. If you Google the words "download Tor browser," you should see the top result as the Tor project. Just wait and then install the browser on your machine. Next, you'll have the option to start the Tor browser. This you will do, and you will have access to .onion websites. If you want to visit marketplaces, simply find a darknet market list. You might also go to the popular databases, the Onion directory and the Hidden Wiki. These will tell you how to access most things in the dark web. Note, some people say it's best to not change the window size while in the Tor, as authorities can track you easier if you do. Others say also turn off JavaScript. Some others say that you should put tape over your webcam, because you just never know. Hey, Mark Zuckerberg does it. Disable your mic too. Basically shut down all apps that are on your computer. It should go without saying that you don't use your real name and try not to send anyone a photo of yourself. You should also use an anonymous email account. When you're done with your session, just shut your computer down. Voila! You've been in the darknet, and you've done it the safest way. As we've said in previous shows, not everyone using the dark web is doing something criminal. In some ways, this corner of the internet gets a bad name, and research has shown many of the darkest things supposedly happening in the dark web have been exaggerated. That said, it's well known that many people, mainly the younger generation, go there to buy illegal substances that they may have otherwise procured on the street. It's also well known that people with strange inclinations visit this place to chat with others that share their fascination with what we might call the more eccentric aspects of life. If you've seen our shows on the dark web, you'll know that finding it is not that hard at all. The question is, should you go there? That's what we'll discuss in this episode of the Infographics Show, why you should avoid the dark web. Let's just give you a quick recap on the dark web, as you may not have seen all our other shows on this place. It's said that only around 10% of the internet is the internet as we know it, meaning the part we can all access. Much of the rest of the internet we call the deep web, which is just the part of the World Wide Web that's not indexed by search engines such as Google. It's a common mistake to think the dark web and the deep web are the same. The dark web is just a small part of the deep web. Many people give it the example of an iceberg. The bit at the top that we can see is the internet as we know it. The main part that lies under the water is the deep web, and the dark web is just a very small part around the very bottom of the iceberg. This is naturally where people go when they don't want to be found. That might be because they have a store there selling the aforementioned illegal substances, or it might just be because they're living in a country that has very oppressive laws on speech. In the dark web, you'll find sites that end with .onion. These websites are not accessible using your regular browser, but you can easily download the Tor browser, and before you can say, "Where am I?" you'll be in the dark web. Here you should have complete anonymity. Okay, so the question is, should you go there? Well, firstly, you should know that the dark web, of course, is of interest to authorities. Illegal things happen there, so we can expect authorities to keep an eye on the place. You should also know that the Tor browser has vulnerabilities. With this in mind, you might ask just how safe is your anonymity? We might also ask if there are other reasons why you should not visit the dark web, reasons more related to you finding things that you probably shouldn't have found. With the latter concern in mind, we looked at Reddit and Quora posts containing people talking about negative experiences on the dark web. We can't vouch for the honesty of these posts, but indeed there are people out there who said they came across things in the dark web they wish they would have never seen. One person on Quora wrote, "I browsed dark web for well over half a year before a horrible experience made me quit. That experience sounded very nasty, and it's not something we want to recount here. Let's just say it involved a video of someone being hurt." Now, others say this kind of thing is very unusual, even for the dark web. But we must remember that it does happen, because an Australian man was put in prison for making such videos. Unless you're sick to the bone, this is not the kind of thing one wants to see in life. So we can say that one reason not to go to the dark web might be because out of curiosity, you see something you might not ever be able to forget. Another person who used the dark web said he looked at forums where he found what he called weird stuff. By that he meant people talking about hurting others, discussing gore, and talking about depraved things such as wanting to eat people. And yet another person said he witnessed what he called a very creepy video. He said there were about 50 people watching this video, again relating to someone being hurt. In this case not very hurt, but still not something people would want to see. And many of the folks watching this video were making what he called obscene comments. Another person on the same thread said he was just hitting random links when he came across a cooking section, only the cooking involved humans. This wasn't a video but a how-to kind of section. "I was traumatized for a few days," he said, because he just read the comments. So unless you want to be traumatized, we suggest you might give the dark web a wide berth. We're quite sure you have to go looking for this kind of stuff, however, so perhaps if you have to go there, just be careful what you search for. As one website that gives advice on the dark web tells us, it's easy to click suspicious links or partake in criminal activity. That website says some of these links are deceptive, and before you know it, you're virtually living in the realms of the demented. We looked at another website called darkwebnews.com. It told us that many people access the dark web without using the Tor browser. It said this can be done with websites such as Tor2Web and Onion2Web. The problem here is that you are exposed, and this puts you at risk of being hacked. Other than that, many people do use the Tor browser, but they don't use a VPN. The problem here is that the Tor has been cracked a few times, and if that happens, your URL can be seen. Okay, so you only went to that disgusting site out of sheer curiosity, but still you went there, and it might not look good for you when your local newspaper has a headline that goes something along the lines of "Boy 17 caught downloading images of XXXX on the dark web." We're also told that you should not enable scripts on .onion sites, which is what many people do. When you do this, we're told you can leave yourself open to hacking, or you just might find a Trojan horse has gotten into your computer. You might also accidentally download files from the dark web, and this is a big no-no. Still, people might just do this by accident. But the big thing to remember, according to that same expert, is don't think that what you're doing on the dark web is illegal. The person says if you're viewing a site on the dark web for any reason, from actually desiring to acquire these products or services, or just to wanting to quench your thirst for knowledge on the subject, know that you may be held liable for what you come across. With that in mind, have people been arrested for using the dark web? Well, in 2018, the US media reported that authorities had made a huge bust of people selling illegal things in the dark web. Engadget tells us that these authorities announced the first ever national-level undercover bust of dark web outfits selling drugs, weapons, and other contraband. Now, perhaps you'd visited some of those sites that got taken down. Again, it was just out of curiosity, but if they could find the owners of the sites, what's to bet that you could have been exposed? It's just not something you want to happen to you, and it might not matter that you went to those sites innocently. Other websites tell us that the FBI and police from all over the world are regularly inside the dark web. Sometimes they go undercover and manage to find the address where parcels are delivered. The Indian media tells us that arrests were made in 2017 by the Mumbai Anti-Narcotics Cell when some boys had ordered LSD from the dark web. Arrests have also been made of the sellers. In one such case in the UK, a bunch of students at Manchester University were arrested after making a fortune on the dark web selling illegal substances. The Guardian wrote 3 gang who compared themselves to the Breaking Bad character Walter White included undergraduates studying pharmacology, computer science, petrochemical engineering, geology, and marketing. In another case in 2016, a young British doctor was arrested for buying drugs and sentenced to over 4 years in prison. The press tells us that in the UK from 2017 to 2018, there were 1,210 drug seizures relating to the dark web. So it might not be as safe as you think scoring your gear there. Police in the UK said buying your stuff on the dark web carries more risk than buying it in the streets. Because if your purchase came from abroad, you could be said to be an importer. The police also added that mail services in the UK are getting very good at spotting packages containing such substances. Okay, so let's say you have no intention of reading or viewing gruesome content or procuring a dozen MDMA pills or some such stimulant. But then we might ask, why are you in the dark web in the first place? Perhaps you have a legitimate reason in that you want to discuss a sensitive issue about yourself, or you're a whistleblower or an at-risk activist. In that case, go ahead and get down with the dark web. But if you don't have those sorts of reasons, one could argue that using the dark web is not worth the risk. Motherboard wrote in 2016 that authorities have developed very sophisticated ways of finding people in the dark web. As we said, sometimes they're undercover. The FBI have been known to sell weapons on the dark web, and who knows where they might be lurking. Motherboard also tells us that the FBI set up one hack wherein a user clicked on a link that was supposed to take them to an unseemingly illegal image. That person's IP address became known to the FBI. What if you had just clicked on that link by accident? What if your curiosity just got the better of you? As a part of the operation, the FBI harvested over 1,000 US-based IP addresses, and Europol generated 3,229 of its own cases, wrote Motherboard. That article tells us that police units in many countries have now dedicated task forces concentrating on the dark web. So you might ask if you really want to be there. Maybe you went there already and did something illegal. Well, we're told that when police make an arrest of a vendor or someone doing something illegal, they often collect IP addresses of people who had connected with that person or persons. The dark web can be considered dark for a variety of reasons. It's dark in the sense that it's largely hidden from the public view. It's made up of encrypted networks that can only be accessed with special browsers such as Tor. This encryption allows users to have an anonymity that keeps their identities mostly but not completely in the dark. And then there's its dark content. While the dark web contains harmless and other helpful websites, it's best known as a black market for illegal items and a breeding ground for other criminal and inhumane activities. We'll present 5 strange stories from this part of the internet in today's episode of the Infographics Show. Most bizarre dark web stories. 5. Red Rooms. The existence of red rooms is the most popular myth about the dark web. According to journalist Eileen Ormsby, a red room is a website that offers pay-per-view live streaming of someone being tortured and/or killed. Red rooms can be interactive too. Paying viewers have the opportunity to type in torture commands in a chat box. Red rooms are generally thought to be an urban legend due to a lack of solid evidence that they exist. According to a Washington Post article, there's not much more proof of their existence, other than people on Reddit, 4chan, and the Hidden Wiki trading second second and third and fourth hand accounts of red rooms opened and closed. In addition, the article points out that red rooms and such operations have never been busted by the FBI's increasingly frequent dark web raids. What also makes people doubt the existence of red rooms are the fake ones that have popped up over the years, such as one that created a stir amongst 4chan and Reddit users in 2015. According to a Motherboard article, the site's owner humorously promised there would be bacon, but the live torture turned out to be nothing more than footage of a man being forced to eat bacon. 4. The Human Experiment. A bizarre dark web website that seems like an urban legend is called The Human Experiment. The website presents the chilling story of what these experiments involve. Test subjects, who are usually homeless people that are unregistered citizens, are taken to one of 4 warehouses where doctors and medical students perform brutal and unethical experiments, such as vivisection, sterilization, and drug trials. There are even tests for neonate and infant tolerances to X-rays, heat, and pressure. The test subjects usually don't live very long, and the website goes into gruesome detail about what happens to them after they die from the experiments. The bodies of the dead are dissected and then disposed of in dumpsters and meat shops, where their bodies will not be found. The Thought Catalog cautions that we may never know whether the human experiment is real or just an elaborate hoax. 3. Cannibal victim ad. In 2018, a 21-year-old Texas man named Alexander Nathan Barter went on the dark web on a horrifying mission. His plan was to find a young girl he could rape, kill, and eat. According to a Daily Mail article, he allegedly wrote a dark web posting for anyone willing to let him eat a young girl and then have sex with the corpse. Instead of finding a victim, however, he caught the attention of an undercover agent. The agent pretended to be a parent, willing to offer up his daughter to him. Barter and the agent set up a meeting via email. Authorities were able to trace the dark web posting to Barter by subpoenaing subscriber information and IP logs, so they were able to arrest him outside of his home on the day of the meeting. He was found with a plastic trash bag and a knife. Barter was jailed and charged with several felonies, including criminal solicitation, attempted capital murder, conspiracy to commit capital murder, and attempted sexual performance of a child. 2. Churchman hires hitman on dark web. A 44-year-old Minnesota man named Stephen Alwine wanted his wife Amy dead. In February 2016, he attempted to hire someone to kill her on the dark web, choosing Bessa Mafia for the job. Months passed and Amy was still alive. According to Fox 9, the FBI eventually informed Stephen and Amy Alwine that agents had shut down a phony murder-for-hire operation on the so-called darknet called Bessa Mafia. They also learned that someone with the name Dog Day God had transferred $12,000 in untraceable Bitcoin in an attempt to hire a hitman to kill Amy, although some sources say the amount was $6,000. Despite this setback, Alwine would not give up. He came up with another plan to kill her. This time he would do it himself. A Washington Post article reports that he got a permit for a 9mm Springfield XDS handgun in August 2016. This didn't raise any suspicion because local law enforcement suggested they get increased security. It would be the same gun found near Amy's body on November 13, 2016. She died in her bedroom with a single gunshot wound to her head in what initially appeared to be a suicide. However, a growing body of evidence pointed to Stephen Alwine as her murderer. According to the Washington Post, there was physical evidence. For instance, there was no gunpowder and blood found on Amy's hands, but gunshot residue was found on Stephen's right hand. Another important piece of evidence from Amy Alwine's autopsy was the discovery of a large amount of scopolamine, a nausea treatment that can incapacitate someone who takes high doses. She had no prescription for the drug. Digital evidence linking Alwine to his wife's murder also emerged. Fox 9 reported that the computer forensic expert Mark Lanterman discovered a 34-digit Bitcoin address on Alwine's computer. Lanterman found it matched the same address obtained when FBI agents shut down Bessa Mafia, and apparently Alwine was dumb enough to purchase scopolamine under the same alias he used to hire the hit on his wife. A detective discovered Dog Day God also attempted to buy the anti-nausea drug scopolamine on a darknet site called Dream Market. In February 2018, Alwine was found guilty of his wife's murder and sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole for his crime. Some of the circumstances leading Alwine to kill his wife are just as bizarre as the killing itself. Before the murder, Alwine was a church elder at the United Church of God in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. One of its church duties included acting as a marriage counselor to troubled couples in his congregation. After learning about the infamous adultery website Ashley Madison from his marriage counseling sessions, he ironically began using the service himself. According to the Washington Post, he allegedly had affairs with at least 2 women he met on the site. He wanted to end his marriage, but he had a high position in a conservative church that looked down upon divorce. In his twisted mind, killing Amy seemed to be the best solution to his problem. 1. Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a video game that was supposedly discovered on the dark web in 2015. One horror news website called The 13th Floor describes it as a weird, semi-abstract horror game made up of black and white visuals, obscure ghost children, and a soundtrack of famous serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and Charles Manson. It also features disturbing images such as satanic and Nazi imagery and creepy backwards speech and music. Oddly enough, there seems to be a message about child abuse in the game. The children are the one who abuse the player in Sad Satan. According to TV tropes, they eventually follow him and harm the player in some versions of the game, leading to the player's demise. Sad Satan may seem like an aimless and badly made walkthrough game, but it's far from harmless. The game was featured on a YouTube channel called Obscure Horror Corner, or OHC. The owner of OHC told gaming website Kotaku that he downloaded it from an Onion site on the recommendation of a subscriber, but OHC's owner eventually had to delete the game because it came with a file that freaked him out. According to TV tropes, OHC's owner also eventually admitted that he posted the wrong link to the game on his YouTube channel after he discovered the game contained illegal images of minors and actual snuff that he did not want to spread on the internet. Different versions of the game have been made over the years. There are some clean clones, but others are not. Besides graphic and horrific content, TV Trope states that some versions of the game are downright dangerous to play because they mangle your computer. There's been a lot of speculation about why the game was made. The 13th Floor states that some people believe it's a sting from police or a recruiting tool for cults. One news website presents the possibility that the game might have been the starting point for an alternate reality game or part of some narrative project or viral marketing scheme. According to TV Tropes, another theory is that the game was part of a publicity stunt to popularize OHC. We may never know if this theory is accurate. While the game has remained in the spotlight, OHC's owner has disappeared along with the original version of the game. Imagine the World Wide Web as an iceberg. Most of what you use is the part above water, the part of the internet you use normally. But there's a part you don't normally see, what lurks beneath the water. Today, we'll look at the darkest parts of the dark web in this episode of the Infographics Show. 11 scary things found on the dark web. Number 11. Mail-order drugs. We'll start with something that isn't too scary, but it's still quite surprising how many people use the dark web to buy their drugs. According to the Global Drug Survey in 2018, a quarter of British drug users shop for their gear on the dark web. The deliveries usually come by post, and buyers seek good ratings and reviews before they take the risk of sending money. The founder of the survey told the independent newspaper that with all those irksome CCTV cameras in the UK, the dark web and mail delivery was hitting an all-time high. Recent arrests include a guy from Wales who was mailing the dangerous drug fentanyl all over the world. They looked for convenience, product range, quality vendor ratings, said the researcher. He also said that most of the dark web drugs buyers were young. This might not shock some of our wayward viewers, but what's coming is worse. Number 10. Human products. Okay, let's get strange. Like fashion? How about products like belts made out of human flesh? We found someone writing on Quora who said he is familiar with the dark web and said that some of these sites selling human products have a complete loyal customer base. We found a screenshot of the website humanleather.co.uk with this text. All products are carefully handcrafted by experienced master craftsmen with years of experience in handling the finest leather known, human leather. According to one writer, a pair of human shoes will set you back $14,000. You can read threads about this on Reddit. Some say it's fake, but as we haven't made an order, we just don't know. Number 9. Hitmen for hire. Some skeptics write that this is a hoax, that you can't really hire a killer off the dark web. Okay, so the hitman site Besa Mafia did turn out to be a joke, but Fortune published a story in 2015 citing research by a security firm, Trend Micro. It turned out that for $45,000, you could get someone taken care of. For $180,000, it could be someone well known to the public. Apparently, you could also get someone beaten or crippled. That's what's advertised anyway. The problem in checking if this is authentic, of course, is paying for a hit and seeing what happens or trying to stop it happening once you find out it's real. Many people are skeptical regarding hitman sites being real, but we wouldn't like to put it to the test. Number 8. Human organs and body parts. Some sites on the dark web will tell you they sell human organs. Again, we can't tell you if this is true or not. Gizmodo wrote an article in 2012 with prices of what organs and body parts on the black market would cost. A pair of eyeballs was said to be $1,525. A heart is $119,000. A hand, $385. And a kidney, $262,000. Illegal organ trafficking certainly does exist, so you might think the dark web would be a good place to open a store. The World Health Organization wrote that each year thousands of organs are bought on the black market, with most of the money going to middlemen, not to those who sold their organs. The Big Think tells us these organs usually come from the poorest reaches of the world and end up in the richest parts of the world. According to Popular Science, a man on Craigslist tried to sell his kidney for $100,000, and he received plenty of offers until his post was taken down. So, do we think organs are available on the dark web? Well, it's conceivable. Number 7. Cannibal forums. According to those who know the dark web, there are forums where people who have a taste for human flesh congregate and talk about their unusual predisposition. Some media reports that there was a website called Cannibal Cafe, but that's now closed down. This is where people looking to be eaten or wanting to eat someone would meet, a kind of personal forum for slaughterers and those willing to be slaughtered. There were stories, artwork, and users seeking advice on the best way to cook someone, says one writer who apparently had visited the site. He said that frozen human meat was even for sale. It's not hard to believe if you've heard the story of Armin Maiwis, the German guy who filmed the killing, dissection, and his own consumption of another man who had agreed to be eaten. That happened in 2001, but it's likely this kind of thing has happened without the story ever hitting the media. Number 6. Dead babies. Apparently there's a website dedicated to sharing photos of stillborn children. Now, this can be taken in different ways. The Telegraph reported in 2015 that a charity was helping parents with the grieving process by photographing their stillborn child. Why someone would go to the dark web to see someone else's dead baby might just be for help, curiosity, or something far more repugnant. Number 5. Last words. Hearing the last words before someone dies can be a saddening thing. There are sites on the dark web apparently committed to finding such recordings. But to be frank, it's not the darkest thing in the world, seeing as it's easy to find the last words of pilots online before their plane hits the ground, a mountain, or just goes up in flames. According to one website, there are places on the dark web where you can hear much more than black box recordings regarding the last words someone said, though. Number 4. Pedophilia web forums. What's perhaps so surprising about this is that it seems a lot of people are into it. There's a thread on Reddit where one guy discusses his time on the dark web, saying he started off just looking at sites selling drugs, guns, fake IDs, etc. But morbid curiosity drove him deeper in. There, he found a website called He said that he found threads on a forum with titles such as Toddler, 4 years plus, 10 years plus, or Jailbait. He said Toddler had over 50,000 posts. A Cracked writer tells of his time in the dark web, saying there's something called Hard Candy, which he said was kind of a Wikipedia for child pornographers. In 2018, the BBC reported about a man sentenced to 32 years. This sadistic pedophile shared abuse tips on the dark web and had 137 charges against him, including numerous charges of rape. Number 3. Animal abuse. Anyone with a heart who has seen one of those clips that circulate on the web, such as puppies being crushed underfoot or cats being burned alive, will likely have that image in their minds forever. Thankfully, it's not something we see often, but apparently on the dark web people go looking for this kind of stuff, and they don't have to look too hard. On one site on the dark web called Cruel Onion Wiki, reports say it's closed now. People would post images and videos of the torture and killing of animals. It was very much real. With Motherboard writing in 2014, a site called Cruel Onion Wiki collates links to videos of women killing and torturing animals, usually in a sexualized fashion. Motherboard writes that cats, dogs, bats, rabbits, hamsters, geese, turtles, monkeys, pheasants would be crushed, sat on, or suffocated, often by fully or semi-nude women. An editor watched some of the videos to check the authenticity and left saying he felt horrified. Number 2. The human experiment. Is this a hoax? According to numerous sources, the dark web has a website run by doctors or pseudo-doctors that perform unethical procedures on unwilling patients, usually people off the streets. The tagline on the website reads, "Not all humans are equal, for some of them were born superior to others." Experiments include pain tolerance, starvation, vivisection, drug trials, transfusions, as well as experiments on babies and pregnant women, and more. The bodies of the dead are dissected and then disposed of in dumpsters of meat shops where their bodies will not be found, it says on the website. The site itself definitely exists or existed, but the actual experiments may not. We hope not. Motherboard writes that it likely doesn't exist, but certainly there are a few places on the dark web where you can find humans being tortured. But you can also find that on the bright web, the one we use every day. Number 1. Hurtcore and snuff. There are rumors of things called red rooms, a kind of pay-per-view live streaming of people being tortured or even murdered. These might be urban legends, however. Australian Peter Scully was arrested for making films where children were being tortured. His film company was called No Limits Fun, and the most infamous film was called Daisy's Destruction. Metro describes this sick movie. Daisy's Destruction showed the baby girl being tied upside down by her feet, sexually assaulted, and beaten by Scully and a masked woman. Scully charged people on the dark web $10,000 to watch it. Although the child in the film did not get killed, police found human remains on one of this man's properties. Scully has been sentenced to life in prison for rape and sexual assault, and now faces more charges of torture, abuse against children, and murder. Do snuff films exist? Snopes says no. Most who have investigated them say no. We must remember that people being killed on camera is certainly a thing, but the films were not made for commercial purposes. To this day, it seems there is no evidence of snuff movies, but hurtcore certainly exists, and we think it's about as low as you can go into the darkest part of the internet. If you've seen our previous shows on the dark web, you should know now what you can find there and how to find it. As you know, the dark web can be accessed through what's called the Tor browser. Once you're in, you should have complete anonymity, meaning no one can track your IP address. What kinds of things can you find there? Well, as you also likely know, the dark web is full of people selling illegal things such as drugs, but there have also been reports of people even hiring hitmen through the dark web. People might also go there just to talk to other people about their illness, their strange habits, their darkest secrets. Today, we're going to unravel something a little more mysterious. In this episode of the Infographics Show, can you really order a mystery box from the dark web? Let's first explain a phenomenon known as unboxing, as not all of you follow the same trends. Around a decade ago, people would appear on YouTube literally taking things out of boxes. This might just be people unboxing tech products and then explaining how that product works, reviewing it, playing around with it. This became such a hit that companies would soon start doing their own unboxing videos or sending their products to popular channels to be unboxed. It's not all about how-to videos though. One of the most popular channels is Ryan's Toy Review, in which a 7-year-old kid opens toys. Simple perhaps, but Forbes reported that this channel made in the region of $11 million in 2017. We bet you wish you'd have come up with that concept. But for some people, the thought of watching people take things out of the box and talk about what's inside is quite dull. But what if what was inside the box was a little more exciting than an iPhone iteration or a miniature plastic Tyrannosaurus Rex made in China? That's where today's focus comes in. You see, a new trend is people allegedly ordering mystery boxes from the dark web and then opening them up on YouTube or other video platforms. As you can imagine, what's inside is generally not suitable for 7-year-olds and often doesn't come with a digital personal assistant. The media tells us that in 2018, hundreds of YouTubers have been unboxing stuff they bought in marketplaces on the dark web, and millions of people have been tuning in. Just search for this on YouTube and you can find lots of videos, mostly containing young men expressing their shock while taking things out of boxes. "Oh my god, there's blood on it," one man says in a particular video while a car baby chair is being taken out of the box. The question is, how real is all this? Could you not just set that up from your own home using ketchup-bloodied props or bags of baking soda you bought from the brightly lit supermarket? The Australian media tells us that indeed people anonymously sell these boxes on the dark web, and they go for anything from $100 to $1,000. Those boxes have included girls' backpacks, bloodied screwdrivers, and at times they've even been empty. In another video on YouTube, one unboxer finds a note that reads, "Dear friend, life is a mystery, a very, very dirty mystery. At times you never know what you are touching or what you are leaving behind." He's then told to wear gloves while he opens the box, and he subsequently takes out the contents. Those contents are a bag of white powder, a tool with a biohazard sticker on it, and a CD. He plays the CD and he hears children's voices, through which he hears the sound of a voice saying, "I see you." Scary? Well, that depends on your disposition and perhaps if you can suspend belief, because maybe all of this is just fiction. But the fact is, if you have a look in the dark web, you can certainly find these mystery boxes. Have a look if you don't believe us. The fact this is possible is rather unnerving, given that the box is untraceable. There is likely a very small chance that something horrible could turn up in a box, rather than a Hello Kitty school bag. Mashable tells us this: although a lot of this may sound alarming, there's also a strong possibility that some of these unboxing videos are faked as means of getting views and obtaining ad revenue. Yep, Mashable, we think most people are aware of this. It seems fairly obvious to most of us that if someone really did buy one of these boxes on the dark web and then video the contents being opened, if those contents could lead to a criminal charge or at least start a criminal investigation, then that video would not appear on YouTube. Sometimes the opening of these boxes is called the Deep Web Challenge, but one must always be skeptical regarding how challenging the unboxing really is. Perhaps the biggest challenge is acting shocked, shamed, surprised, disconcerted, while making some creepy form of entertainment. Now we go over to Reddit, where one person writes this in the intro of a long piece of writing. "I don't know why I didn't realize a clear majority of these videos are fake and staged for the scare factor, but I didn't." Lo and behold though, when he finally gets around to purchasing a box, he is shocked to find something that chills his bones. It's a book, he says, that contains photos of the house he grew up in. Each numbered page contains a Polaroid, photos of places, things, but one page, he says, contained a picture of a mask, handcuffs, a gag, and a bottle of some sort of drug it looked like. He sees his own parents tied up, himself as a kid. Oh, and then he throws the book away and he sees a hooded figure looking through his window. It turned out by ordering this box, he got his parents killed. What this is, of course, is an old trope used in horror movies, wherein an added bit of realism is used in the form of skepticism, i.e., I don't believe in the boogeyman, but then this happened to me. It's basically the campfire ghost story, and the best ones use realism to get you listening and then throw in the scare. Other stories have appeared on Reddit that are similar, and it seems that some people believed the tale. That is terrifying. I would contact the authorities right away. Wish you the best and please keep us posted, writes one person after reading a wicked tale of a mystery box. We can only congratulate the writer of the post and hope that he or she has a great career in fiction writing. Are we being too skeptical? We don't think we are, but that doesn't mean that some of these videos are well made, well acted, or well told. We agree with this person writing on Quora. The whole idea behind the mystery box is a scam. I've watched many videos on YouTube about mystery boxes, but later come to the conclusion that no sane human being will be willing to buy a piece of garbage. That's not to say that you can't buy a mystery box on the dark web. We haven't ordered one at the Infographics show, so we can't say for sure. We can, however, go on videos and research and conclude that people are unboxing to create an audience. It's a show, nothing more and nothing less. Sure, you can find media, mostly of the tabloid ilk, all over the world talking about YouTubers opening these sinister boxes. Videos guaranteed to freak you out, 100% genuine, and that you won't believe are real. But those media are just getting on the bandwagon and generating their own audience. You might also accuse us of doing this, but at least we're trying to give you an informed piece of entertainment. We're calling these videos out as fake, but at least well-made videos for the most part. This isn't to say, of course, that you can't find white powder, often grown in Colombia, on the dark web. It doesn't mean you wouldn't find that in one of these mystery boxes. One very real journalist writing for the independent newspaper did explore the dark web and did buy illegal things. But when he talked about mystery boxes, he was too skeptical. There were dozens of videos with millions of views, yet there was something that didn't seem quite right about them, he said. The contents of the boxes seemed to fit the stereotypes of the dark web so much that it seemed staged. What did he do? Well, he tried to order a mystery box, of course. Finding one wasn't that easy, and he had to do a lot of searching. He writes that he finally found one trusted vendor willing to sell him a mystery box. He not only sees that others that had bought such a box gave them a thumbs down, but the seller wanted around $1,500 for the box he wanted. That's a bit bit out of the price range for a journalist, so he asked the advice of someone who has written 2 books about the dark web and has spent years going through it to see what she could find. Her name is Eileen Ormsby, and a quick search will show you that she is certainly an expert on the dark web. This is what she said to the journalists. Mystery boxes are just silly. The ones on YouTube are primarily total hoaxes invented by the YouTubers themselves for the clicks. She did add, though, that now such boxes are popular, no doubt someone is taking advantage of that and selling them, but they're just full of junk. They don't contain murder weapons or possessed dolls. It's all just a great big hoax, as we said. During her investigations into the dark web that lasted years, she failed to find many of the gruesome things that supposedly exist in this place. While arrests have been made of people doing horrid things in the dark web, it's not something all over the dark web as we're sometimes led to believe. As for mystery boxes, the only mystery to us is how some people believe these videos are real. There are 4 warehouses available for storage, each holding up to 20 test subjects in individual experimentation cells, though more subjects can be temporarily held in each if the need arises. On staff conducting the experiments, there are 3 nurses, 6 medical students, 2 medical interns, and 3 medical residents. You are welcome to join in the live streaming of medical experiments being currently undertaken, or if you prefer, or perhaps are squeamish, you may simply wish to read the post-experiment notes detailing the experience. Currently, experiments range from starvation, vivisection, forced transfusions, and sterilizations. All laboratory work is conducted at a real hospital using samples that are classified under the real patient's names in order to not arouse suspicion. The bodies of the dead, both those from experimentation and those who are no longer of use and are euthanized, are disposed of in dumpsters at local meat shops. Human remains mixed with those of animals. Test subject names are kept confidential in order to avoid identification by site visitors and are only referred to by their serial numbers. New test subjects are chosen ahead of time and taken from local homeless and non-registered resident populations so as to avoid legal entanglements. Welcome to the human experiments, a particularly dark corner of the deep web that many curious wanderers have accidentally stumbled into. But is this site real? Is there really a website dedicated to sharing the results of grotesque and inhumane human experiments on the deep web? There's no doubt that there exists plenty of illegal materials on the deep web, a place notorious for illegal activities. However, real-life human torture? Well, for that we turn to red rooms. A long-time urban legend that sprung from our fascination with the deep web and the darker side of human psychology. Red rooms are allegedly places you can log into and witness human torture streamed to you live. Such places are not publicly listed and require a direct invitation, which is typically bought well in advance of the actual event. Working like a twisted version of a common webcam chat site, viewers can suggest things to be done and even tip money directly for specific things to happen. Those that tip the highest have their requests fulfilled. But are these places real? Well, to date, no evidence exists yet that red rooms have ever actually existed. In fact, many internet experts are deeply skeptical that red rooms exist, or that they ever did, as the security liabilities are huge for anyone putting on these productions. Sure, you could have your physical operation set up in a place with lax legal oversight and perhaps corrupt public officials who won't ever bother investigating your activities, but as so many have found out on the net, you can control your own side of the situation but have little to no control over everyone else you invite into it. If red rooms existed, all it would have taken is one single careless individual to unwittingly provide evidence of their existence, and law enforcement would have swarmed all over any active red rooms. On the net, the smallest bit of carelessness can end up costing you huge, and many crime rings have been brought down on the deep web thanks to the carelessness of users. For a real red room to exist, it would have to operate flawlessly and with perfect clientele who are never careless. It's very likely that at least one red room client would eventually been busted by law enforcement for something completely unrelated, only to accidentally lead police directly to evidence of a real red room. Such carelessness helped bring down the powerful Silk Road illegal marketplace after all. But could the human experiments be real? Could there really be a place in the deep web right now where renegade doctors are conducting cruel and inhumane experiments on unwitting test subjects, streaming the process to viewers? First, let's look at the available evidence. While it's since been removed, the website was once found through the Hidden Wiki, a sort of phone book for deep web sites. If the human experiments was real, it's certainly odd that it would be publicly listed on a link directory, easily accessible to anyone who wanted to investigate it for themselves. The website is currently offline, or at least no longer exists at the link it used to live at. Perhaps the creators wisened up and made themselves a bit more secret? Not likely. Let's find out why. To date, the only evidence of the site other than a dead link is a series of several screenshots taken from when it was briefly operational. These offer some major clues into the validity of the site, so let's investigate once more. The front page of the website, visible on this screenshot, lists the general purpose of the human experiments, as well as some of their methodology. The listed experiments being conducted read like bad creepypasta fiction, listing tolerances to X-rays, heat, and pressure amongst other things in what is clearly an attempt to shock the reader. However, the bad fiction is revealed even more when we move past that to read about their methodology. First, the site claims that laboratory examinations of collected samples from the subjects are taken to real hospitals for processing. Although it says that these samples are submitted under the names of real patients so as not to arouse suspicion, well, it would be mightily suspicious if Mr. Doug Jones, being treated for a broken leg, suddenly had lab test results that showed blood work indicating toxic chemicals in his bloodstream. Yeah, submitting samples of people you torture under the names of real patients turns out to be a pretty stupid thing to do, unless you're just a bad fiction writer, of course. But why are lab samples even being submitted when clearly the medical experiments have no actual medical value? Tolerances to X-rays, heat, and pressure? We already know those tolerances pretty well, thanks to our fundamental understanding of the human body and X-rays, heat, and pressure. Why would you even submit lab work to a real hospital in the first place, thus greatly increasing the possibility of getting caught? If you're secretly torturing people and streaming the results on the deep web, the last thing you want to do is increase your exposure. Again, bad fiction. It's the way the bodies are disposed of that further hint at the human experiments being nothing but really terrible creepypasta fiction. Allegedly, subjects are disposed of in dumpsters of meat shops where the bodies will not be found. We suppose that the fantasy here is that because butchers surely dispose of a lot of meat, nobody will notice human remains in a butcher shop's dumpster. Except that humans, as the only true bipedal animals on the planet, tend to look nothing at all like other animals, and neither do our remains. So a few fingers, an arm, or an outright leg are going to sound the alarm bells when one eventually falls out, either in the landfill or as the garbage is being loaded. However, the biggest giveaway that this whole thing is nothing more than amateurish creepypasta fiction is that the disposal location and methodology is even mentioned in the first place. This is basically inviting law enforcement to find the evidence of your crimes by literally telling them where to look. Sure, you could be in any city in the world, but why even give the cops a way of catching you should they happen to narrow your location down to, say, a few dozen cities? It's amateurish and, well, kinda stupid, but that's what you get when you write bad creepypasta. Also, medical personnel should definitely know of better ways of disposing bodies so that they can't be found or identified than simply dumping them in a butcher shop dumpster. Has the writer of this failed creepypasta never even seen Breaking Bad? So, rest easy, because the human experiments is without a doubt fake. It's simply the amateurish writing of a bad horror fiction writer that's playing into the popular trope of terrifying, inhumane activity on the dark web. Believe us, human beings are terrible enough on the clear web to not need bad creepypasta.
Going on the internet can be an overwhelming experience, and there's a good reason why. A Netcraft web server survey taken in January 2018 revealed that there are over 1.8 billion websites on the internet. Of course, your purpose for going on the internet narrows down the number of websites you'll actually visit. Some people go on the internet to look for employment, while others are online retailers or students trying to write a research paper. And then there are people who are looking for something different outside of the realm of the ordinary. What are some websites that can satisfy the need to see something bizarre, strange, or even frightening? That's what we'll explore today in this episode of the Infographics Show, Top 10 Creepiest Internet Websites. Number 10, theoccultmuseum.com. The Occult Museum is a fairly new website that is packed with creepy content. Started in 2015, the website states that it is dedicated to collecting the strange, macabre, and the supernatural. It covers a wide variety of paranormal topics, including haunted places, supernatural destinations, and mythic monsters. It also features true crime articles about topics such as serial killers, unsolved crimes, and mysterious disappearances. In addition, the Occult Museum shares true stories submitted by readers. Some of them are ghost stories and urban legends, but others are first-hand accounts of strange, unexplained, and/or disturbing events experienced by people such as doctors, 911 operators, truckers, and morticians. Number 9, theblackvault.com. According to its Facebook page, the Black Vault is a massive research center archiving what the US government is trying to hide from you. Its creator, John Greenwald Jr., has compiled an extensive database of declassified documents from the FBI, CIA, and other US government organizations with secret information. There are documents about historical figures such as Adolf Hitler, organizations such as the Church of Scientology, and weapons programs such as the electron beam systems in space. The site also includes celebrity FBI files. For instance, you can see a Xerox copy of a threatening letter sent to the Beatles in 1964. In the letter, the sender told the Beatles to cancel their 1964 performance in Denver, or else I'm going to throw a hand grenade instead of jelly babies. In addition, there are declassified FBI documents about fringe topics such as Area 51 and Bigfoot. And there's more. The Black Vault offers case files on recent and past UFO sightings, alien encounters, cryptozoology, and other paranormal topics. Other features of the site include a chat room and a radio show. Number 8, diedinhouse.com. For a fee, you can receive a report from diedinhouse.com that contains information about people who died at an address you enter into the website. The report also discloses whether there was a fire at the property, if the property was used as a meth lab, and if any registered sex offenders lived at the address. You also get a list of registered sex offenders in the entire zip code area of your address. Currently, diedinhouse.com can generate reports only for official addresses in all 50 states of the US. Number 7, vincentcastiglia.com. This website is the online portfolio of American artist Vincent Castiglia. While his surreal artwork depicting archetypal themes of life, death, and decay is eerie on its own, the fact that he paints them with human blood adds to the creep factor. He paints most of his artwork with his own blood, but sometimes he paints with the blood of celebrities. For example, Castiglia painted a portrait of musician Greg Allman with Allman's own blood. He is also known for painting Lucifer on the guitar of Slayer musician Gary Holt using Holt's own blood. Recently, director John Borowski completed a documentary about Castiglia called Bloodlines: The Art and Life of Vincent Castiglia. Number 6, summum.org. Summum is a religion that incorporates some ancient Egyptian practices and the laws of the Hebrew prophet Moses. The followers of this religion set up a non-profit organization offering Egyptian mummification services. They will mummify you even if you do not believe in Summum. Summum.org provides more information about the procedure used to preserve your body, which is, bad pun intended, shrouded in mystery. You actually have to have your body shipped to their site in Salt Lake City, Utah, in order for them to perform the mummification. They even warn you that once your body is received by Summum, no family member or any other person will be able to see your body again. This is because they want to work without interference from anyone else. The process can take several months or longer. When they are done mummifying you, you are sealed up in a mummiform, a custom-made art form casket or a traditional casket before you are shipped back to a final resting place of your choice. They also mummify pets. The high cost of their mummification services will probably scare more people than the mummification process. The cost of human mummification starts at $67,000. The website does not specify whether or not this includes the price of a mummiform or casket, and you can't use just any old casket. Summum requires a full couch 48-ounce bronze or full couch stainless steel casket. Pet mummification can range between $7,000 to more than $100,000. Number 5, Funker530.com. This is the website of a military veteran organization. According to its Patreon page, the purpose of Funker530.com is to bring the public an unfiltered view into conflicts unfolding around the globe. While it features some news and entertainment stories, the primary content of Funker530.com is combat footage taken in Afghanistan, Iraq, and a few other countries. There are also videos of other types of shocking incidents that happen around the world, such as security camera footage of a grenade attack in a Ukrainian nightclub. Whether captured on or off the battlefield, the footage in these videos is disturbing and filled with graphic violence. At one point, YouTube threatened to delete the Funker530.com YouTube channel and most of its combat footage due to the controversial nature of the content. The Funker530 channel is still up and running, at least for now, and the Funker530.com website will be available if its channel is taken down. Number 4, Supernaut.com. This website features an extensive collection of murder memorabilia from well-known and lesser-known serial killers, cannibals, and female killers. Some items are fairly mundane, such as letters and Christmas cards sent from prison and prison photos, but others are more creepy. For instance, you can buy a victim morgue photo for $12. This website is even selling a pair of boxer shorts that Charles Manson wore in prison for $3,500 and dentures that he wore in prison for $50,000. These items are disturbing not only because of who owned them, but also because of the fact that someone is profiting from the suffering and death of people who are murdered. Number 3. Skywaybridge.com. Despite its cheery name, the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa Bay, Florida has a dark history. It is supposedly the 4th popular suicide bridge in the United States. The purpose of Skywaybridge.com is to track the number of people who have jumped off of this bridge. The statistics posted on the website include the number of successful suicides, possible suicides, suicide survivors, and safe jumpers. There is also a list of all known jumpers, the dates they jumped, and additional details about what happened to them. The records date back to 1954, when the original bridge first opened. It was rebuilt after an accident in 1980, but the website is updated frequently to include the latest jump attempts. In addition to data about the jumpers, the website openly tries to discourage people from jumping off of the bridge. It offers suicide prevention resources to encourage people to get help, and it includes some gruesome details from a news article about what happens to the bodies of jumpers when they hit the water. There is also the first-hand account of a fisherman who attempted to save someone who jumped off the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. The emotional trauma the fisherman suffered from his encounter with the jumper is a reminder that suicide causes pain to others besides the suicide victim. Not only did he take his life that day, he impacted mine forever. Number 2. PlaneCrashInfo.com. As its name suggests, PlaneCrashInfo.com is dedicated to providing data that will satisfy your morbid curiosity about old and new plane crashes from around the world. Its database covers plane crashes that happened between 1920 and the present. You can find out such grim statistics as how many fatalities happened aboard the plane and on the ground. Plane crash accident scene photos are also included. There are some special features on the website as well. For example, find out about famous people who died in plane crashes and details about the plane accidents that killed them. If you can't get enough plane crash information, there are links to plane accident report databases in Australia, Brazil, USA, and a few other countries. Perhaps the most creepy aspect of this website is its last words page. Here you will find cockpit voice recordings and transcripts from plane flights that crashed. You get to hear and or read what was said before final impact. Some of the recordings are more disturbing than others, particularly the CVRs of those who knew they were going to die. And finally, number 1, archive.org, the Jonestown Death Tape. The Internet Archive is a non-profit digital library of internet sites and other cultural artifacts in digital form. Not everything on the Internet Archive is creepy, but if you look around, you can find some shocking and strange items on this website, such as the US War Department's footage of Benito Mussolini's execution and a 1984 music album by Charles Manson. One of the creepiest cultural artifacts featured in the Internet Archive is a digitized copy of an audio cassette tape found by the FBI at Jonestown, Guyana. On November 18, 1978, over 900 members of the People's Temple cult, led by Jim Jones, committed mass suicide at Jonestown by drinking a cyanide-laced drink similar to Kool-Aid. Jones shot himself in the head following the death of his followers. This recording on the Internet Archive features Jones's final words to his followers. After some of his men killed Congressman Leo Ryan and others who were about to leave Jonestown, he tries to convince his followers that there is no other way for them to have peace except to die. While one person suggests the possibility of escaping to Russia as an alternative to suicide, others are thanking Jones for giving them the strength to choose death. Someone even tries to persuade the other followers that they should be happy about death. The background sounds of children screaming as they are dying are disturbing and haunting. What makes this tape even creepier is that it has slow, ominous-sounding music in the background that was not played live at this tragic death event. One expert speculates that all the music on the tape are shadows from an old recording that somehow leaked into this final, eerie recording. So, is there a creepy internet website that you think belongs on this list? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called What Are the Weirdest Unsolved Internet Mysteries? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time!